You're listening to Real Radio, the nationally trusted name in real estate investing. We dig deep to discover investors' why in real estate. If you want to skip all the BS and get in investors' heads, you're in the right spot. Be one of the thousands to check out realradio.com.
This episode is brought to you by Entrepreneur Addict.
If you feel like marketing changes every 5 minutes, you're not wrong. You're right. And that's why we built Entrepreneur Addict. We take the chaos out and give you one simple roadmap to follow. Video that converts, local search results that rank, and content that actually connects with people. And all of this brings real results. Get started now. Get the clarity instead of the overwhelm by going to entrepreneuraddict.com/REIA now.
Welcome to Real Radio, episode 277. This is the Real Estate Rundown with Aiden Bear.
Oh my God.
He just says, oh my God. Well, with Owen
and Ted Kosh. All right. Hey, we're done. We got it done.
Aiden's mic was not on, nor was he prepared for that. That's why you got to keep that mic on, Aiden.
All right. Speaking of keeping the mic on, so today we had the real estate or the RIA goal planning sesh with Brandon Turner, Collin Schwartz, and Vince Gettings. The Titan Group mastermind here locally that Collin Schwartz has created. Still accepting memberships, by the way.
National.
Yeah. Local to Omaha, national mastermind. Yeah. There we go. Is that better?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's not my group. I'm just.
Yeah, it's an unpaid sponsorship apparently. But that was a really interesting deal. We had 50 people at a lunch on a random Friday in late December.
Did you see how many people poked their heads in that? I'm like, there's no room.
No, I didn't.
Oh yeah.
Was there a lot?
Yeah. I was like, there's no.
You're like, go in the corner, sit in the corner.
No, I'm like, I advertise. I'm like, show up early because it's starting at 11:30.
You did. And I was there at 11:20.
Yeah.
I thought you'd be proud of me for that.
So
but that was really cool. You know, it gets beaten to the earth about goal planning and, like all that stuff. And it can be exhausting at times. But that was a really good exercise to go through to kind of like start with the end in mind and break it out into categories of your life. And we've talked about this before, but it's very common in social media, especially, and a lot of other areas of like personal development and that kind of space. If you're listening to this podcast, odds are you're probably in that camp in some way, shape, or form where you're wanting to improve, wanting to learn. And it gets overplayed a lot of times, like goal setting and putting it out to the world and like all that stuff. But this was a very practical way of approaching it, I think.
Have you ever done his goal planning sessions before?
Not this specific one, no.
Because the one he does for the Better Life Tribe, which I did his very first one when he took over, which a couple years ago. It's like a 3-hour event. And I was just listening to his podcast recently, and or just the other day. And
his meaning Brandon's on A Better Life.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. But yeah, I was listening to Brandon's podcast just yesterday, and it's like, like every year we're having our plan 3 hours and download the packet. We're going to go through it in detail. Today was an hour and a half, and that was the express version.
Yeah, it definitely was. But very cool because it breaks down life into not just business and personal development, which is the most measurable, the most visible thing out of most categories in life, right? So it's generally fitness is a pretty good, like if you're walking around,
easy to measure.
Yes, you can tell when somebody's, a fit person or not, or what their habits are generally by looking at them. And, the same thing with
so
what
my habits are when you're just looking at me?
I have a pretty good idea.
Okay.
Yeah. We can go into that in more detail if you'd like, but
probably not.
Okay. So generally people walk around and they are a pretty good leading indicator of their physical appearance, is a pretty good leading indicator of what their habits are.
Yep.
Is that fair?
I mean, it's fair.
Not always. I might get some hate on this, but whatever. I'm just saying, like, it's a pretty good leading indicator of what someone's habits are. And with business and real estate and investing, generally there's a dollar sign attached to a lot of, quote unquote success. Yes. So easily measurable. Like, did your business grow? I mean, what's your NOI from one year to the next? It's pretty easier to measure that. But there's a lot of other spots in life that are really hard to measure. Relationships, your spouse, your kids, your health, like all those things, right? So it's kind of like what the inputs are, what you put into your body, the output is the visible part. But like this was very helpful to kind of work backwards through reverse engineering what your goals are instead of having vague ones out there. And I liked what they were saying about process versus outcome goals. So meaning I want to lose 20 pounds. That's an outcome goal. Whereas the process goal might be I will commit to going to the gym 3 days a week, 4 days a week, and I'm going to eat lunch at home, and it's going to be a factor meal or whatever that is, right? And so those are the process goals. So process versus output. I thought that was a really interesting exercise to go through.
When you set your own personal goals, I mean, how do you go about it? Because I have a way that I go about it every year. What's your way that you
Mine are more process oriented, honestly.
Okay.
Like, and this is what I was going to ask you actually after going through this whole, thing we did today. Do you generally focus more on output goals or process goals? There's no wrong answer. It's just a question.
Yeah, I think I'm a kind of a hybrid between the both, to be honest with you, because when I start my goals, I do my vision board first.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of the end result with that, and I gave one example in today's meeting. I said that one of my vision board pictures was us sitting on the beach with Christmas hats on. It's a picture of the whole family on the beach.
Yeah.
When I was working with Jason Dries, he saw my vision board. He's like, okay, so first off, your yearly goals need to be put into 90-day segments. And then when you accomplish that, then you need to look at your vision board and you need to buy one of those things in the vision board to reward yourself for hitting that goal.
Okay.
And that's what I started doing. I started looking at my goals in 90-day increments, which by putting it in my calendar, it really started helping. But then I started, reverse it. I'm like, okay, so what's my monthly goals? And then what's my weekly goals? And then I had daily tasks that I did every day, no matter what, that I put on my notes pad. And then every morning I create 3 rocks that I have to complete that day.
Okay.
And a lot of times I try to make those, unless it's just like pressing issues. Like today, I had some pressing stuff, so it didn't apply to my yearly goals. But the goals specifically are generally looking at my weekly goals. My weekly goals are generally based around my monthly or my yearly goals. And I like it because I use the notes section of my phone and I check them off. And that's my process of doing it. And it really is useful for me. But the way I do my goals doesn't mean that's the way you should do your goals.
Right.
We all have our way. But if you're not doing any goals at all, I think that's the mistake.
So there's a lot of categories to life in general, right? So there's business and income, there's your personal relationships, there's your spouse, your kids, your health, your fitness, your, like all of your spiritual or, religious journey is a big part of that too. But everybody go through and rank where they felt their current state was in each of those categories.
Yeah.
And you couldn't give yourself a 7.
On the circle, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The circle meaning, think of a pie chart. So each of them represent an equal, portion, but it's, all those things I just mentioned. And it was really interesting to go through that. And part of the exercise was to share what you're working on with the rest of the table or your neighbor, right? So sharing stuff about your marriage and your kids and your family life is not always comfortable.
No.
Right. And it's not something that everybody's wanting to do. And I get that.
Then you get a podcast and then everything's out there for everybody.
Well, there's that too. But yeah, it was just cool, right? Like, so there's results oriented goals, there's process oriented goals. Mine are generally process oriented. I know that if I put in the work, irrespective of the end goal, if I put in the work, then I will consider that a goal accomplished. So I don't usually put, we have big goals for our lending business this year as far as our capital stack and how much money we had to lend out, right? That's a big barometer of a lending business, right? How much money do you have available that you can keep deployed? And the more that money grows, the more money you're going to make as a company, right? And as a person. And we didn't hit the goal that we had at the beginning of the year, but I'm okay with that because we went through the process of the inputs that made the output the end goal. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. So I'm okay with that. And we have similar goals for 2026 with that business, but we put a much better framework into the deep work involved in getting systems and processes implemented in a business. And what I mean specifically by that, because it gets thrown around a lot, is we implemented accountability, we implemented technology. So we bought some software to make our business better, right? To measure the things that need measured that move the needle, right? And we hired a really key employee to get our shit together. Those things will move the needle by sheer will, So I think despite our failure to hit our overall goal, which is raise our capital stack, the things we did in the infrastructure in the business are going to make it so much more efficient and better and make better decisions. And I think, we're going to grow the money pot here moving forward.
You have been growing the money pot.
We have, but a hard money lending business is a lot of times you start with your own money, then you get friends and family money, and then you get line of credit at a bank, and then you get investor capital. Whether or not the line of credit at the bank and the investor capital line up in the same spot or not doesn't matter, but those things happen. And then you start growing and you get referred and you just become more successful that way. It's hard to predict how much money you're going to be able to raise in any given year because it's subject to a lot of things you have no control over. So the economy being one, and it's easy to blame the economy or blame whatever, but as long as you're doing the inputs that make it necessary to get the outputs based on the information you have, then you can still consider it a successful year if you're doing all the inputs. Right. It's like working out. If you want to lose 20 pounds, that's an outcome, not a process.
Yeah.
But if you're eating right and going to the gym as many times as you said you're going to, and you missed your goal by 2 pounds, but you look way better and you're healthier, is it really a fail?
Well, it's like I set my goal to be at 225, but I've changed what I've eaten. I've changed the things I'm putting in my body, and I've worked out more than I've ever have. And no, I have not hit that goal. I've dropped 10 pounds, but I firmed up. So I feel a lot better about myself, even though I haven't hit that end goal. So I kind of feel what you're saying there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The effort's going in. There is changes happening, but I got to look at my goals differently. But one thing I have to tell you is after all these years of doing goals, and I feel like I've been doing them pretty hard for the last 10 or 12 years, but it's something that's always been part of my life in the year, putting us all together. This will be my best accomplished goal year ever.
Really?
Which is a statement because this has been a rough year.
Yeah.
We put it out there, but I set goals and business goals, personal goals, family goals. And after Tuesday next week, I will have accomplished every single goal on my sheet except one. And the only one I have left was my goal was to get 500 members at our RIA.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm roughly about 440. Maybe there's a push I can do at the end of the year that'll make that happen. I don't see it happening, but that'd be the one thing I missed.
No, that's awesome, man. Like, I know this has been a tough year. We've talked about a lot of the personal struggles we've both gone through in the last, year, 2 years, whatever. And mine was 2024. It was a really shitty year. But I wanted to ask you this. So we had an interesting conversation at my table today, and it was around, of the different aspects of life. A lot of people will have a couple that they really excel at and a couple that they're not good at all right? Mm-hmm. What do you think your low-hanging fruit is? Like if you're like, okay, different categories, life, business, fitness, health, mental growth, personal growth, all those things, marriage. Yeah. What's the easiest for you? Like what is easy?
Easy for me is like coaching and the gym, health and fitness is pretty easy for me. It's pretty normal, but family time seems to come pretty easy. Those personal things. Mm-hmm. The things that are a little bit more difficult are growth and the success that I feel like I should be at in my business life.
Do you think you're judging yourself off of other people with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard not to when you interview such successful people.
Yeah.
Most of my clients I work with have huge success. People in our RIA have huge success. The people we interview have huge success. So I'm always comparing myself to those people consistently. And I do think my day is coming. And I think it's closer than it ever has been. But I think I succeed with my family time, my kids' time, and how I volunteer more than most people around me.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. What do you think, getting back to and I'm sandbagging you with this, but what do you think will make you feel like you're good enough with relation to business and, financial success?
It's not saying that I've hit that 7-figure net worth, in my companies, not in my bank account, obviously, but, and so.
Well, we're in real estate. Yeah.
But I've been there, I guess when, let me backtrack here. I just had my blueprint meeting through the Titan group with Vince Gethings. Mm-hmm. And it was supposed to be an hour meeting. It went 2 hours. And in the end, he's like, we talked about real estate. We talked about this. We talked about that. Talked about all your businesses that you're getting in or involved with. He goes, but the only thing that really seemed like it hit home and the thing that you really got excited about was things involved around community. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, but the community doesn't pay money.
Right.
Like it doesn't. Like I have to do these other things to keep the lights on, because if I could just do podcasting, or if I could just do working on ARIA or creating some other groups and they actually made money, great. He's like, well, maybe that needs to be your focus this year, because he goes, I think you're wasting your time, life, and effort in doing the car washes or getting all these other assets. He goes, I just don't think that's your calling. He goes, you probably know it and it's fine and it's going to pay you money. He goes, but I don't think that is the thing that's going to make you go to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't disagree. That's why I'm keep on doing, the community stuff that I'm doing, because I do think that there's a bigger picture to that. But I need to be able to keep the lights on, and it's the investments or flipping or having those other assets going, or being a realtor that pay the bills.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a weird balance. And a community is one thing, but creating a community that can pay your bills is a whole nother
That
thing.
is true. That is true.
Because, I mean, I'm very transparent. Like when it comes, we have a pretty large RIA group. I don't charge enough.
No, you don't.
But,
I've told you that for years.
But, once you figure it into podcasts and the RIA and everything, it's negative. It doesn't make money. It puts gas in my wife's car and it takes care of some happy hours.
Yeah.
That's literally all it does. And so, I need to figure out how to expand that. And that's one of my goals this year. And I'm working heavily on that. And I think I have some answers to that coming soon. So hold your breath. There's some things coming, but it's just really hard to figure out. Like, you might have a passion in something, but that passion just takes longer to get to where it needs to go.
Well, yeah. And, it's been proven out, like, you don't have to be passionate about something to be successful at it. You can be successful and then also be passionate about what you're passionate about.
Right.
Right. And so, like, you can kick ass doing something you don't really love, but you can also free up enough time by making a lot of money doing something you don't love to pursue something that you do love, even irrespective of whether it's going to put enough money in the bank to have you be, I'm good.
It's like us doing the mastery event. Like, we really love doing that.
Yeah, it's great.
But it doesn't make any money.
It doesn't make any money at all. It's a loss leader, but it's one of the most satisfying things that I've ever done.
Yeah.
In 20 years of being involved in real estate, is being able to share other people's voices with a crowd that really wants more for themselves, and being able to see the reactions of the people in the crowd. That's payment enough. I know it doesn't pay the bills, but yeah. So the message here is sign up for the RIA Mastery Series event, the flipping playbook or whatever it's
January
called.
16th.
Yeah, January 16th. Hit Ted up.
Go to RIA
Jessica needs some gas.
RIAMasterySeries.com. Get your tickets. We have 5 amazing speakers. It's going to be a full day event with breakfast, lunch, and happy hour at the end. And the cool thing about our event that's different from the normal events that you go to is we have 5 keynote speakers. And it's going to keep your attention. It's going to give you all the education you need. And we're not doing all these breakout sessions that are going to be on topics that you probably don't get 2 shits about. And the speaker comes in and he's like, oh shit, what do I talk about? No, our events are planned. They know what they're talking about. We have topics. And guess what just got locked in today?
Who?
Real estate credits.
Oh, nice.
We got
yeah.
certified. So you can get 6 real estate credit hours if you have a real estate license, if you're a Nebraska realtor.
Which was hugely popular at our last event that we did.
Probably sold about 50 to 60 tickets just because of that alone.
Yeah, so pay attention to that if you're a licensed realtor
in Nebraska.
Attend that event. You can knock out 6 credit hours. You're welcome.
Yeah, so check it out. We have a great event. We have great speakers, and every speaker that's been on there has been on our podcast at least once.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
yes.
That's true. Hey, how about we talk about today's golden nugget? So I was thinking about this after we had our coffee meetup yesterday that Andrea Foley ran for me in my kind of semi-absence. I was tardy. I've been listening to a couple of people talk this week about how they were struggling to implement change in their business. So it was like, this is at the coffee meetup that I run every week.
Yeah. Caffeine and cap rates.
Caffeine and cap rates.
Caffeine and crap rates.
Caffeine and crap rates, apparently. But there were a couple of people that were really just so in the weeds about why they couldn't get out of the weeds, meaning they were running all the day-to-day stuff, and they were really frustrated because they were like in the office and working for 3 hours on something that somebody else could do in 1 hour. And all of the struggles they had with, yeah, but if I hire somebody and like I have to train them. And by the way, I'm completely guilty of this. So I can empathize with them, but at the same time, I want to help fix. And this is where I'm going with the gold nugget. It was one of those conversations that we were having where the light bulb kind of went on when it was like, look, are you recording any of the stuff that you're doing that you might be able to train someone on? And they're like, well, no, because that would take a while. And I'm like, look, if you're in there and you're saving a file or you're sending an email and you're doing something in a particular way, all you have to do is hit screen record, right?
Yeah.
So otter.ai
Or get Applaud,
which Ted's rolling right now. And so Otter.ai, Fathom is another one, Plod is another one,
Your iPhone,
Loom is another
your
one.
iPhones now can even record your phone calls.
Oh, Samsung can too, Ted. Don't discriminate.
Oh my gosh, let's go.
Anyway, so my point on this is if you're struggling to get out of administrative tasks or things that feel like they are occupying so much of your time that your time can be much better spent elsewhere, get in the habit of screen recording. Talk through why you're doing what you're doing, because otherwise people are not going to know why. Imagine being somebody that reports to work one day for you, Ted, and you're like, like I need to have this new property manager added to this property, and I have these new tenants that are moving in, and I need to make sure the tenant checklist is done. And you're gonna be like, you know what? Never mind. I'm just gonna do it myself. Right.
Yeah.
But if you take the time on your screen to hit record and you actually talk through why you're doing what you're doing, that's all you have to do. Right. And then they can go back and reference that every single time until it becomes a habit. And then a habit becomes a process. And then, the process becomes the result. Right. So it was just one of those things where we were talking through all that. And then it was almost kind of like the room stopped for a second. And then there was like recognition, like, I don't have to do it this way. I keep bitching about the same thing every week. You know what I mean? And here's a simple solution. I'll just do it. It was one of those moments where, for me anyway, I don't know if anybody else experienced it, but I was just like, this is pretty cool.
I love light bulb moments.
Yeah.
Everything just kind of ignites. You're like, oh,
it was
man,
just
I
like
love
that
this.
moment of silence, especially in a room with 20 plus, real estate people. That never happens. Like there was like a 5-second silence, and
your room gets pretty quiet. They're listening pretty good.
Yeah,
it's a unique room.
It was cool. Anyway, so the point being, if you're going to train somebody and you keep kicking the can on this, and you're not hiring somebody because you're afraid you don't have enough work for them, or like you don't have the time to train them, just get in the habit of documenting what you're doing on the computer or what you're doing that's not on the computer. And you can, by the way, you can just hit voice memo on your phone, right?
Yeah.
Just hit voice memo and be like, hey, I'm driving right now. Here's what I'm thinking about. I realize that, because everybody worries. Like you wake up in the morning or you're having trouble going to sleep at night, or the last thing you think about is generally something you're worried about. And generally you have anxiety about that. And generally anxiety is due to indecision, or you're putting something off, you're procrastinating, right? So that will tell you what you need to pay attention to. And if you aren't the right person to do that, then take hold of the reins and screen record, talk about why you're doing what you're doing. And then you can have somebody do what you're doing in a way that you want it done. And that's the whole hesitation a lot of times with entrepreneurs or people that, run really small businesses. And they're like, I don't want to hire somebody. They're not going to do it the same way I do. That's the big scare.
Yeah.
But if you describe why you're doing it the way you're doing, you get the point. It's one of those things where you just got to get in the habit of doing it.
You mentioned kind of anxiety of getting things done and procrastinating. It reminds me of like a lot of times I'll go through my emails and then I'm like, okay, delete all these 300 junk emails I'll never read. And then I finally get done with it and I'm burned out on emails. And then the ones I need to read, I don't get to.
Ones, yeah.
I don't get to, but they're sitting there because I haven't answered them yet. Then everyone, like probably once a week, I'm like, oh, I need to bite the bullet. And I start backwards on my list. And then it's like all the hard ones. And then I get it done. And then it feels lighter to get through the rest. And I was like, I need to always just start from the bottom and then work myself to the top.
You ever get a phone call from somebody after you tried to call them earlier and then they didn't pick up?
Mm-hmm.
You were ready for that conversation,
yeah.
right? Like like, I have all my shit together.
Yes.
I'm calling them right now. And then they don't pick up and you're like,
Yep.
And then they call and you're driving or you're on another phone call or you're in the, in the middle of something. And then you're like, ignore. Or whatever, because you're like, oh, bro, I tried calling you earlier. Like, I'm in the middle of something right now. I'll call you back.
But you also know,
and then you dread it, or
yes.
like you're, you know what I mean? You kick the can on it, and then it becomes a weird conversation later because you could have just answered it and probably just knocked that worry right off your list.
I hate that people are trying to book a phone call with you and they text. I'm like, can we just talk now?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, I'm too. Text. I have this one person that is like, text me probably 25 times to this date over the last 2 months about having a phone call. And I'm like, just call, bro.
Yeah.
I'm not, and then I'm like going through old voicemails, and there's old voicemails still. I'm like, I'm not even gonna call that guy back. I'm so burned out on these text messages, and you can call me. I'm done.
Yeah. But anyway, so I think to start the foot off right in 2026, answer the phone when it rings.
When you
have that conversation. Yeah, when you can. And just get it off your worry list. That's what I want to do this year, Ted, is just like knock out my anxiety inducing items that and generally it's because I'm procrastinating on something I already know that I should be doing or not doing. right? So that's today's golden nugget.
Very long-winded.
Yeah, I know.
But kind of interesting. I was paying attention to all these executive orders that have been getting done this week.
Oh, okay. We're ending with politics. Got it.
Yeah. Before we get into our recap of the podcast for Wednesday, did you see that now marijuana went from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3?
3?
Yeah.
Well, did it go there or was that proposed?
No, he executive ordered it.
So it's enacted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I actually looked that up.
And he's
last night. That's funny that you bring this up.
He's like an anti-drug, anti-alcohol.
Yeah.
He's like it just makes sense.
Yeah, I haven't really looked far enough down the line to see what the like fallout or after effects of this is going to be, but this is going to be really interesting, especially with, the Nebraska is holding on like grim death to not legalizing marijuana. They're doing everything they can to unwind the medical and close down all the, THC friendly shops that are around town there. I think there's 400 of them in the state of Nebraska.
They're everywhere.
Yeah. So that was a interesting move. That's a bold move, Cotton.
Yeah. So that's the first one. Next one is the 23rd and the 26th of December are now federal holidays.
What?
Yeah.
That was an executive order?
Yeah.
Like that's legit right now.
Yeah, he signed
the
it.
23rd, not the 24th?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm sorry, 23rd, 24th, and 26th. So everything.
There's 4 days now?
They're all federal holidays.
What?
Yeah.
Did you know this, Aiden?
No. He just signed that. Military warrior pay came out from bonuses of $1,776.
You know why that number is?
Yeah.
Okay.
1776.
I do want to point out the dark side of this, though. Did you see any of the blowback of that whole executive order?
No. Like this is just stuff I've seen on
the
news.
They had already, like, Congress had already approved it, and it was. I don't know if this is true or not, so don't give me hate about it. But like, what I saw was a lot of people saying that was already baked in, and that was for the housing stipend for military families.
I never,
and then he paraded it around as like, oh, this is an extra thing on top when actually it wasn't. I don't know if that's true, but this is just breaking news.
Here's my issues. I never know what's true anymore because because everybody hates each other so much in politics that I don't know. And all I know is I saw this stuff on the news and I'm just reporting it back to you guys.
Yeah.
And this one I'm really on the fence about. The Trump Kennedy Center.
I don't know anything about
so
this.
So you have the Kennedy Center.
Yeah, old fashioned.
Yeah. And so supposedly Trump put a whole new group of board members in there, provided some money for revamping it, and the board members voted unanimously to make it the Trump Kennedy Center.
Oh, Senator.
Center. I had one old fashioned and I'm stuttering. Yeah. Isn't that crazy though? And I'm like, that's a bold one. And I don't remember. I was trying to Google and find it because I saw it on the news. But I guess there's already like a federal building that he renamed the Trump Federal Building.
Wow.
So lots of interesting things happening in Washington.
Yep.
It's amazing how many things he's putting his name on.
Yeah. Did you see they pretty much decided not to include October and the Bureau of Labor and Statistics stats that came out for inflation?
No.
Just went ahead and took 11 months worth of data and divided it by 12. And then they called that the inflation number.
Is this for sure? Or
yes.
Okay.
Like it's not included in the math. What? So they took 11 and divided it by 12 and they gave you the inflation. So what does that math mean? That math means inflation is actually a lot worse than what they're reporting. This is according to Jay Scott. So I'm going to throw him under the bus there, but he did the research on all the data that was reported on it. And that was, so I don't quite know what to make about this. And it, from what I understand, it's unprecedented. There have been situations before where the government shutdowns have resulted in certain departments not being able to report data because they didn't have employees there, right?
Yeah.
So they're kind of blaming it on this, but look, this isn't a political episode, but like they could have been funded, but they weren't. And instead of saying, here's our best guess, they just said it's 0. And they went ahead and divided the whole thing by 12 instead of 11. So the number, so it's led to a little distrust on what's actually being reported as being accurate. So I don't know, man.
It's kind of back to my point. You just don't know.
I know. I don't trust a lot of what comes out.
I don't know what to believe on either side anymore. Like, and you can't believe the news,
right?
Like you're listening to us right now. We're just regurgitating what we've already heard. So maybe it's all fake. But it's just interesting the stuff that's out there.
It is indeed.
Okay, well, that's the news I've heard about. We used to have a news segment. Remember that?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, listen to some of the beginning episodes for that. We had a surge in podcast episodes. I'm guessing that there's a lot of people with Apple phones, and they're like, "Oh, I'm just going to mark all episodes as downloaded." And I think it sturges our podcast stats to the tens of thousands.
Oh yeah, well, we appreciate that for sure.
So if you have the Apple Podcast and you're like going looking at it and you're like, I'm just going to go ahead and mark all as read, I think those stats hit us.
And do that every week. That would be awesome.
Every week. We'll end the year with a bang. Well, all right. To wrap up, we have a podcast on Wednesday with a local real estate investor and business owner and advocate, Jay Morales.
Yes.
Somebody I personally known for about 25 to 30 years now.
I'm officially going to give you Owen's seal of approval on your filter on the people that I've met that you hold in high regard in your life, because the people that I've met that you've been like, I don't know who these people are. All of a sudden there's somebody showing up on the podcast calendar and I come in and Ted's like, oh yeah, I've known them for 25 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And then we'll go through the podcast, and by the end of it, I'm generally like, I really want to be friends with them. You know what I mean? Like,
I've always surrounded myself with.
Yeah. So I do want to applaud the filter that you apply to people that you put in close regard in your life. Yeah. I mean that truly. Like, I don't say that lightly.
Well, I know, but you don't say anything lightly.
Yeah. That was great podcast. Very deep. We start off with a bang talking about homelessness.
If he wasn't under time limit, that would have been a 2.5 hour podcast.
For sure. Yeah. But very raw, origin story from really hard times, and he pulls no punches in this episode. So very, very cool story. Basically hit rock bottom and rebounded like in crazy fashion from that. Married an awesome woman, from what it sounds like, has 4 wonderful kids, and has become an insurance agent, a real estate agent, has invested in real estate himself, 15 units, I think he said he owned.
15 houses.
Yep. And so really, really, really cool story that guy has. And I can't wait to talk to him again. He was, that was super fun.
It's our second radio VJ.
Oh yeah.
That we
ex-DJ.
That we've had in the last probably 6 weeks.
It was interesting to hear that was his kind of first gig coming off of rock bottom, was being a radio DJ.
Well, I think on the DJing, and then that led into the radio.
Yeah. Oh, is that right? Okay. Yeah. Yep. So that was Jay Towers, Jay Morales now. Yeah. So yeah, he's got that's funny. We've had a few people on with different names.
Off air, we're joking a little bit because he's like, we have asked that question about your eulogy, and I go, Jay, I held your funeral. He's like, what are you talking about? I go, because when he left the radio industry, he did a whole entire campaign that Jay's dead.
Oh,
so we did.
I didn't know the whole backstory when you were talking.
And
about
he was a comedian, and also he ran Ice House Live, which was a local comedy venue in town.
Okay.
And then so we did a party called Jay's Dead, and it was treated as a funeral.
Oh, man.
And we brought a casket in and everything. And he's like, "Hey, my radio days are done. I'm moving on to business." That's when he became an insurance agent, got out of the party scene.
Interesting.
And that's when he recruited me out of doing Omaha nightlife to get into the industry. And then I ended up back in Omaha nightlife after that. So twists and turns, as it goes.
It does.
But hey, we're 38 minutes in. I hope you guys enjoyed this. We try to keep it short, try to be fun, try to keep it entertaining. Please leave us a 5-star review on whatever format you listen to us. A written review is awesome because we love to read those written reviews. Yep. It brightens up Owen's day, puts a smile on his face, and it takes a lot for Owen to smile. So we appreciate that.
RDF.
With that, Owen Dasher, we get us out of here.
Happy holidays, people, and Merry Christmas. You've been listening to Aiden Bear briefly, Rio Radio, and Ted Kosh. And I'm Owen Dashner. You've been listening to the Real Estate Rundown.
Sign off.